This is a stimulus check update and daily news report. With the Senate coming back in session tomorrow, Democrats have some big plans, including the Build Back Better plan, as well as a few other projects. I'll play a video clip of what the Democrats' plan is and what they're fighting for, as well as a video clip from the Republican side, what they're fighting against and how they don't want the Build Back Better plan. So I'll give you a balanced perspective there. I'll also give you the latest stimulus check articles like this. Here's why you might actually get 2 stimulus checks in February. And millions of Americans could receive $1,400 New Year stimulus checks to offset cost of living rise. Do you qualify? And new bonus $2,000 stimulus checks for adults and $600 for children proposed for 2022 in this state. Do you qualify? And I'll give you some other important updates as well. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So why are countries cutting quarantine as Omicron cases explode? So in the US, quarantine time went from 10 days down to 5 days, and as well as a few other countries around the world, especially in Europe. So the UK, Spain, Ireland, and Greece have shortened isolation periods for infected people. Why is everyone lowering these quarantine times if cases are exploding? Well, same reason why they did in the US. There is a labor shortage crisis. So Europe risks facing critical labor shortages as the Omicron coronavirus variant surges across the bloc and infected and traced individuals hunker down in isolation. So due to labor shortages, Europe is going to make the all-time low of 5-day quarantine for infected people, having the 10-day period as it was before. So despite cases going up, quarantine time going down. Let me know your thoughts on that. Good idea, bad idea. Next, let's get into the stimulus check news. So here's why you might actually get 2 stimulus checks in February. So this just came out yesterday, but this is referring to the child tax credit, assuming that the child tax credit would have passed through the Build Back Better plan. And if it did pass, then to the lapse that's going to happen, since there is no child tax credit going out January 15th, they were going to have 2 of them in February. But the way things are going, child tax credit may even be cut as well if it was up to Joe Manchin, and there may not even be 2 checks or 1 check going on in February when it comes to the child tax credit. Then we have this article. Millions of Americans could receive $1,400 New Year stimulus checks to offset cost of living rise. Do you qualify? So this is talking about the Senior Citizens League is pressuring Congress to introduce a one-off Social Security stimulus payment for seniors worth $1,400. Where does that stand now? I've spoken about the Senior Citizen $1,400 stimulus check. Currently, it is not in any bill. It wasn't in the Build Back Better bill, was not as a standalone bill, nor is any Congress member endorsing it and trying to have that pass. So at the moment, it's just the Senior Citizens League trying to get a petition going, as well as trying to get a lot of media coverage on it, but it hasn't gone anywhere yet. Then we have this one. These checks are actually going out. So new bonus $2,000 stimulus checks for adults and $600 for children proposed for 2022 in this state. Do you qualify? So this is the Navajo Council. So basically what's going on here is the Navajo Nation President, Jonathan Nez, approved the vote ensuring that checks for approximately 350,000 tribal members will go out. So what was said here is it has been over 8 months since President Joe Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan Act, and our Navajo people should not suffer another day without knowing how their government will assist them as they suffer from grief, mental health, and financial hardship. A second allocation of hardship assistance payments of $2,000 per adult and $600 per child will allow our relatives to purchase essential winter supplies, gasoline, firewood, and food now. So that was passed this past Wednesday. It was an 18-2 vote. So $2,000 for adults, $600 for kids in the Navajo Nation. Let me know down in the comments below. Is anybody part of the Navajo Nation? Let me know your thoughts on that. And then also when it comes to the bigger bill stuff, so Biden and Manchin discussed social spending bill after U.S. Senators' rejection. So supposedly, after Joe Manchin went on Fox News and said that he is not going to vote for it, Joe Manchin and President Biden have been in close touch and contacting each other ever since. But looks like nothing has come out of it. So here is the Democrat perspective of what's going on with Build Back Better plan from Congress members and how it's going to happen moving forward.
All right, less than 48 hours from now, senators will be back on Capitol Hill, kicking off the first session of this year's new congressional calendar. And now that it is officially 2022, that means it's officially a midterm year, and the clock is ticking for Senate Democrats to pass federal voting rights reforms, Build Back Better, and anything else that might convince voters to once again risk life and limb to stop the Republican Party, which is beholden to Trumpism, from seizing power. Joining me now, New York Congressman Adriano Espaillat. He's the second vice chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and Ohio Congresswoman Shontel Brown, the newest member of the Congress. She's a member of the Committee on Oversight and Reform. And of course, Dr. Jason Johnson is still here with me. Congresswoman, I'll start with you since you're the woman on the panel and the newest member of the Congress. You just got off a campaign, your own campaign, and so you have seen what it takes to do that GOTV game, to get grassroots folks out there. And with rampant voter suppression happening all over this country, I'm curious your thoughts. Can the Democrats hold the majority without passing federal legislation to protect voting rights in this country?
Well, thank you for having me. Happy New Year, Tiffany, and Happy New Year to my colleagues and Dr. Jason Johnson. It's good to see you. First of all, we need to talk about what's happening across America. When we look at all of the bills that have been passed, I think there's 34 laws in 19 states that are restricting voting rights. We have to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to stop that. So a coordinated campaign filed on these baseless accusations of voter fraud and election fraud just really needs to come to an end. Protecting our voting rights is a constitutional thing. And so we have to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to address that. So this isn't about party benefiting, one party benefiting more than the other. This is about protecting the rights of every American to be able to cast a ballot in a free and fair election. And so that's what we need to be hyper-focused on.
Congressman Espaillat, I want to ask you about the role of President Joe Biden when it comes to these reforms. I want to play you some audio from him talking to David Muir about what needs to happen in the Senate, and then get your thoughts on the other side.
Are you prepared to support fundamental changes in the Senate rules to get this done?
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means whatever it takes. Change the Senate rules to accommodate major piece of legislation without requiring 60 votes.
So you support a carve-out of the filibuster for voting rights?
The only thing standing between getting voting rights legislation passed and not getting passed is the filibuster. I support making an exception on voting rights for the filibuster.
Yeah, and something else that's critical to pass to President Biden's agenda, and that's Build Back Better. Some of your colleagues, Congresswoman, have supported breaking the bill up like a piecemeal way and introducing them as individual bills. I'm curious your thoughts on that. But the bigger question is, because yet again, in the upper chamber, it is Joe Manchin who's standing in the way of this legislation passing once again. If you were given an audience with Joe Manchin, what would you say to him to impress upon him to get out of the way of having these crucial pieces of legislation pass?
Well, first, I think that he believes he's doing what's right for his constituents. But I think the bigger picture, as you pointed out, is what's important for the American population as a whole. So many people are suffering and waiting for the Build Back Better legislation to pass. When you think about the child tax credit, which is a part of the Build Back Better legislation, and expanding that put $435 on average in families' households. And so we have to talk about it in terms of how it helps families. When I think about my constituents in Ohio's 11th congressional district, 70,000 people have benefited from the child tax credit. And so we have to be able to find that common ground and focus on the things that are beneficial to all of our constituents, whether they're in West Virginia, Ohio's 11th, Arizona, or in New York. And I think that if I had the opportunity to share, to speak to him, I would say, let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And we don't want to take any of the options off the table, right, Tiffany? We want to make sure that every possible avenue to move this legislation forward is available to us. And so because of that, I think, again, we have to focus on where we can find common ground, but I'm not opposed to breaking it down so that we can get more effective programming for a longer time. And I think that's an approach that Senator Manchin and I both agree on.
Now that it is the new year, we can start to see the narrative twist a little bit. Rather than what's best for the people, it seems like the argument is now what's best for the party and trying to win the midterms, both for Democrats and Republicans. So we're going to start to see a big turn of events now. Looks like Build Back Better is going to have to pass in some form or another. Otherwise, Democrats are going to be on the chopping block. So MSNBC host, Americans don't care about the Build Back Better's cost. So referring to Tiffany Cross, who was just speaking before, saying that American people across this country are not interested in the price tag of Build Back Better plan. They just want the help that it could give. So that is what the Republicans don't like, because the Republicans care about the cost. And here's the Republican perspective here from Representative Maliotakis.
Jillian, let's bring in New York Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis. Nicole, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
So we've taken a pause over the Christmas and New Year's holidays, but Build Back Better, the fight for it will continue when you return to the Capitol. What are your expectations?
Well, I think the Build Back Better bill, as is dead. Republicans unanimously voted against it in the House. We see Senator Manchin coming out, and I think there's other Democrats, quite frankly, in the Senate who are not comfortable voting for this bill. People understand that when taxpayers pay taxes, they expect certain things in return. And there are obvious things like national security, making sure we have a strong defense, making sure that we have money for quality education in our public school system, Medicare for our seniors, and of course infrastructure. We've got to modernize our nation and keep up with pace, and that brings GDP money and revenue in. The issue is that Democrats now want to create unnecessary new programs, social programs, welfare without work programs, and other entitlements that we just simply cannot afford. And so I think this is going to be certainly a showdown. I'm sure that the Democrats are going to try to continue to push forward with various pieces of their agenda. But I will say this, Republicans have been very good at actually stopping major pieces of their agenda. If you look at what happened this year, we've exposed that Build Back Better law for what it was, and it ended up dying because Democrats didn't want to support it. We also stopped using taxpayer money to fund political campaigns, all their radical campaign election law changes, the anti-police measures, taking away qualified immunity from our police officers, packing the court, another big one. Republicans have done a good job despite being in the minority.
The setup piece from Lydia talking about the national debt approaching $30 trillion is stunning. What will it take to get both parties at a table at some point to figure something out?
Well, I think Republicans are right when they say they want to see a balanced budget. If you're going to spend money because there's a necessity here, then you need to cut the money from somewhere else. One of the things that I've proposed is looking at making sure we are auditing these programs. The inspector generals have caught tens of billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse in money that's been spent in Afghanistan. As a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I talk about this all the time, about money that we're sending to other countries. Is it really being used for its intended purpose? And then look at the COVID relief programs, for example. How much waste and fraud and abuse have been identified there? You know, we need to make sure we empower these inspector generals. I've also introduced a bill to go after, you know, the states and municipalities of $1 million or more, like New York City, that receive a lot of federal funds, to make sure that money is being spent properly. But I think it's right that we look to this, but the problem is the Democrats are not fiscally responsible as we are. They want to continue to create new programs, entitlements, and give more money away, where we're trying to say, hey, we need to be responsible here going forward and spend on the things that we truly need.
The head of the Progressive Caucus in the House, Pramila Jayapal, writing in the Washington Post over the weekend, quote, "This moment for the Biden administration and Congress can either lead to our greatest failure or our greatest success. If we use every tool at our disposal to redouble our efforts to deliver for our communities with the most urgent needs of the American people as our guide, success is possible." That in reference to the Build Back Better package, either encouraging President Biden to use the pen to go around Congress or to continue to fight to get it through Congress. Your thoughts?
The people in this country elected representatives to do a job, and that is to go to Washington and vote on the best interests of their district. To try to take away that representative democracy is wrong. This is something you would hear in my mother's homeland of Cuba, that unilateral dictatorship, that what the president can enforce these things and go around Congress. We will certainly be pushing back and fighting against that every single step of the way. Look, we had a lot of successes in stopping bad policies. We have to keep a strong defense in 2022 until we we could take back the House the following year and there can be a balance once again. Because what we know, particularly as New Yorkers, one-party rule is no good, and we're seeing that play out in Washington right now.
So what are your thoughts on that? Two completely opposing views. Democrats don't like the Republicans. Republicans don't like the Democrats. But where do you stand? Somewhere in the middle? Do you lean more left, more right? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. And that is all the stimulus news that I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Oh, sorry guys, I didn't see that. Can I tell you something? What I want to do is go to the moon. I need to go to the moon. Never mind. What do you want? Tell me in the comments below and see what you want. If you want to do something, then accomplishment. Do what you want, because that after you get too old to not do what you want. Oh, bye. The moon, bye.
Thank you so much for watching, and a happy new year to you. So what do you plan on doing in the new year? Do you have any new year resolutions? So my wife actually convinced me to do a juice cleanse. So I'm drinking carrot celery juice for the next 7 days, and other vegetable fruit juices as well. But I'm actually not going to eat any food for the first 7 days of January. So might be a little groggy, might be a little cranky in these videos. We'll see how it goes. So this is the first juice of the day. So I'm just drinking food. I'm not eating or chewing anything, which is pretty crazy. Let me know your thoughts on that. Good idea, bad idea? And if you want to check out my latest video, you could click up here for my Wise Vibes video to get yourself in a better mood. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.